Finance will say we passed these particular amounts and this is what we projected. Parliament also does change them accordingly. Then the second one coming in from Wilbur Chiveka Yunga says, I see there has not been tangible actions taken to reduce government's expenditure so that there are savings to repay the debt in the near future. The debt stock pronounced by the national budget is higher than the total national budget for a full financial year. That is what he says. Without reduced expenditures and minimized costs, where is the hope for paying it?
Sorry?
Where is the hope for paying now that Wilbur says that he doesn't see tangible actions that have been taken to reduce government expenditure?
Yeah, that's exactly what we are also saying.
If you could kindly remove your mask.
That's what we exactly saying, that it is good to have good roads in this country. There's no objection about that. But now, if you have a cake, because this national budget is usually referred to as a national cake, and you distribute that cake in a manner that some of the beneficiaries on that cake get 60%, others end up with 5%, 20%, then you have a crisis. We are talking about roads. Mr. Kagwa has talked about our expenditure to cover the gaps in road infrastructure. While we have gaps in infrastructure, we have also gaps in the productive sectors. And these productive sectors are the ones that generate wealth for the country. When you have a country where unemployment is at over 70%, then you have a serious problem. You will not be able to generate revenue, so you'll be dependent on borrowing. Remember that this infrastructure that we are constructing, we are using largely borrowed funds. Now you need to service the debts that you obtain to construct this infrastructure. How do you get that money? You only get it by investing heavily in agriculture, in industry, in tourism, in ICT, in those areas that generate wealth for the country.
Okay.
So these roads, and I must continue to submit, are simply supportive to those sectors. Now, when you provide a lot of support and a lot of supportive infrastructure, and you provide very little for the sector that you are targeting to give you the export earnings.
And that's where the question comes.
That's where the problem is.
Whereas Ministry of Finance plans, what is Parliament doing then to ensure that the citizens...
What we have done, I think, in most of these things, we do some interventions where we do some direct allocations, but we cannot go very far. It requires the government itself, because our work, is not to develop the budget. Developing the budget is the work of government. We are there to provide oversight. And we keep telling them, unfortunately, the response has been very slow. You recall that we had NDP 1. In that NDP, you recall we had an egg concept. That concept, in that egg, the yolk was meant to be the productive sectors. And the white part was meant to be those enablers. The enablers enabling that yolk to generate the chicks. Now, that NDP was not effectively implemented. And you realize that we have had an assessment about NDP 2 also. Performance of that NDP is reported to have been unsatisfactory at 59% in terms of alignment with our budgets. So in other words, our budgets are not clearly aligned to our plans. And you see there's this old adage that says, failure to plan is like planning to fail. So these failures we are getting is as a result of not using our budgets to effectively implement our national development plans. So NDP 1, the burning constraints in there, we are not all addressed. So it is really up to the government. It's not Parliament We have provided necessary advisory to government to effectively restructure the budget to ensure that there is a fair balance in these allocations, to ensure that the economy moves evenly, not getting one side like this. You know, you provide so much for infrastructure, security, whatnot, you know, and so little for the productive areas.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lugorobi. I'll now go to URSB. Honorable Victoria yesterday cited that it takes forever to register